Some episodes in The Simpsons go beyond the usual laughs. They don't just land a joke, they leave a mark. These are the moments when things shift, when the humor gives way to something deeper. So, what are these episodes? Stay tuned as we break down the moments when The Simpsons cross the red line, each one explored in detail. Take Homer's Phobia. On the surface, it's just about Homer trying to sell an old toy. But this is an episode where The Simpsons crosses the red line into fear and ignorance, using Homer's panic to show what casual homophobia really looks like. Homer meets John, a friendly man who runs a collectibles shop. They laugh together. Homer even says he likes him. But when Marge says John is gay, Homer's mood shifts in a second. Suddenly the man he just bonded with becomes someone he fears. And then Homer goes too far. He pulls Bart away from John, starts thinking Bart might be gay too, just because he wears wigs or eats pink cupcakes. That's when Homer crosses his own line. Not just being scared, but trying to change his son. He drags Bart to a steel mill, thinks that'll make Bart manly. Turns out the workers are all gay. Homer panics again. He takes Bart hunting. This time, they nearly get killed by reindeer. And who saves them? John, the same man Homer pushed away. That's the red line. A father so afraid of difference that he risks hurting his son to stop it. And the only one who helps in the end is the man he rejected. The episode uses jokes, but underneath it shows how dangerous fear can be, especially from someone in charge. Then comes Much Apu About Nothing, which crosses a different kind of line, the one between fear and hate. It starts with a single bear wandering into Springfield, harmless, lost. Wiggum knocks it out with a dart. It's over. But Homer, riding a wave of fear, turns it into a fake crisis, says the town needs protection, marches to City Hall. Quimby gives in, brings in tanks and planes. The Bear Patrol is born, but it costs money. A small tax increase follows. The people get mad, not at the waste, but at the cost. So Quimby blames immigrants instead. And that's the red line, shifting fear from animals to people. Suddenly, it's not about bears anymore. It's about foreigners. A vote is called. Proposition 24, all undocumented immigrants must leave. No questions, no second chances. Apu is caught in the middle. He lived in Springfield for years, he worked at the Quickie Mart, paid taxes, but his visa expired long ago. Now he faces deportation, even though he has hurt no one. He thinks about cheating, fake papers, fake identity, but instead he tries to become a citizen the right way. Lisa helps him study, he passes the test, but the town never says sorry. The law stays. That's the real line crossed, turning good neighbors into targets and never looking back. Then there's The Boys of Bummer, one of the harshest episodes ever made. This is where The Simpsons doesn't just cross the red line, it erases it. Bart drops a ball in the final play of a baseball game. Springfield loses, and the whole town turns on him. Not just teasing, but full cruelty, booing, yelling. Wiggum tricks him into going back on the field just to get booed again. Bart shuts down, Lisa tries to help, even brings him to meet a pro ball player who once made a similar mistake. But the guy mocks Bart too, calls him trash. Soon the whole town is covered in graffiti. I hate Bart Simpson. He sees it everywhere. He starts believing it. He climbs a water tower and jumps. That's the moment the show crosses the line into something real. A child almost dies, and the town still doesn't care. They're outside the hospital still chanting insults. Marge screams at them, she calls them monsters, and she's right. There's no joke here, no lesson. Just a crowd who enjoys watching a kid fall apart. The episode ends with a fake redemption. Bart catches the ball on the 79th try and everyone cheers. But it's empty, the damage is done, no one apologizes, nothing is fixed. The red line wasn't just crossed, it was stomped on. And then there's Bart versus Australia. It's the kind of episode that starts silly and ends in chaos, but along the way it crosses a line by showing how one kid's joke can turn into an international mess. Bart loses a bet with Lisa about toilets flushing backwards, so he calls random places in the southern hemisphere to prove he's wrong. He tricks a kid in Australia named Tobias, making him run around asking neighbors about toilets, then ignores the bills that pile up. Eventually, the Australian government gets involved. Bart is charged with fraud. The U.S. State Department sends him there to apologize. They arrive. Bart drops a frog in a fountain. No one sees it yet, but it's the start of something worse. At court, they don't just want an apology. They want punishment. A giant boot kick to the rear. Bart refuses. They run, hide in the U.S. Embassy. In the end, Bart agrees to one kick from across the fence, but right before it hits, he dodges and moons the crowd. "Don't tread on me" written across his butt. The crowd erupts. Helicopters chase the family as they escape. A koala clings to their chopper. Eventually, the show gave up on even pretending to care about the consequences, and that was the red line again. Season 21's The Color Yellow didn't just cross it, it wiped it clean. Lisa's family tree becomes a setup for what should be a thoughtful story, but instead uncovers that one of her ancestors owned slaves, not as a product of his time, not with nuance. Just flat out owned people. They try patching it with redemption twists that he later helped free them, but it's hollow. The show isn't satiring racism or American history, it's mocking Lisa's values. That's the difference. That's where the old edge curls into new cruelty. Then came Moe Goes from Rags to Riches in season 23, and whatever line was left got laughed at. The main character isn't Moe. It's his bar rag, a talking bar rag, voiced by Jeremy Irons. That should have been the warning. But what follows isn't just lazy, it's insulting. The rag floats through history. Viking raids, Napoleon's exile, medieval torture chambers, none of it sticks. None of it means anything. Moe doesn't grow. We don't learn anything. The story is just a long shrug. When a show used to expose pain, now it just passes time. That's the red line here, giving the audience garbage and daring them to care. Love is a many-splintered thing. From season 24, decided Bart's emotions weren't worth treating seriously. He falls for a girl, she dumps him, and what could have been a raw, kid-sized heartbreak turns into a playlist of sad cliches. Crying in the rain, crushed teddy tears, empty swings, but no truth, just noise. In earlier seasons, Bart cried when his dog was taken away. Here, he cries, and the show laughs at him. That's the shift. When the writers stop respecting pain, the damage isn't just to the character, it's to the viewer. By season 26, the show wasn't even hiding its worship. The Musk Who Fell to Earth turned Elon Musk into Springfield's messiah. The episode spends 30 minutes treating him like a hero, even as his inventions bankrupt the town. Nobody questions him, not even Lisa. It's not satire, it's product placement in disguise. The Simpsons used to roast billionaires, here it shines their shoes. That's the red line, when the show trades its bite for access. Then came every man's dream in season 27. Homer and Marge separate. Homer starts dating a younger woman. Marge finds someone else. Everything builds towards something real until it's all erased. Just a dream. A lazy excuse to dodge fallout. What was once a bold move becomes a gimmick. This isn't edgy, it's empty. Earlier seasons showed what divorce looked like in A Millhouse Divided. This one shows what cowardice looks like when it wears a writer's badge. Lisa wasn't spared either. In Lisa the Veterinarian, she kills an animal by over-sanitizing it. Yes, that's the actual plot. What should have been a moment of guilt, reflection, maybe growth, is tossed aside. Lisa moves on like nothing happened. The same Lisa who once sobbed over her pony, who mourned Bleeding Gums Murphy, now shrugs at death. The red line here, it's how the show stopped treating its own characters like people. Season 29 opened with The Simpsons, a Game of Thrones parody that forgot it needed heart. Fantasy isn't the problem. Treehouse of Horrors has always broken rules, but even those episodes kept character truth. Here, everything is flattened. Lisa is a mage, Bart's a knight, Homer eats a dragon egg. That's the whole joke. The town burns at the end and no one reacts. When there's no weight to the fire, there's no point to the flame. Wreckin' Mom could have been different. Marge joins a group of drag performers. The premise had potential for gender, for performance, for Marge to explore something new. But the episode ducks all of it. The queens are just colorful props. Marge doesn't evolve. Homer is fine with it instantly. It becomes a sketch show, not a story. That's the line they crossed, pretending to be progressive without doing any work. They tried hard again in Atticus Finch, where Lisa suddenly sees Homer as Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, but the setup ignores decades of damage. Homer, who's choked Bart, ignored Lisa, and blown every chance to grow, is now framed as noble. It's dishonest. It asks us to forget who he's been, and Lisa, the smartest one in the house, just goes along with it. That's the line, rewriting a character's history to make a point they never earned. Then came The Road to Cincinnati. It was quiet, surprisingly good. Skinner and Chalmers on a road trip. No magic, no parody, just slow pacing, dry jokes, real stakes. It stood out because it tried. But that's what made it painful. It proved the show could still care when it wanted to, which meant every bad episode around it wasn't a failure of ability. It was a failure of effort. That's a red line too, when a show chooses laziness over love. Panic on the Streets of Springfield may have been the loudest example. Lisa falls for a Morrissey-style singer. At first it's sweet, then the real version shows up and turns into a bitter racist parody. It wasn't clever, it wasn't deep, it was petty. The real Morrissey got angry and the show clapped back like a troll. Lisa's story didn't matter. What mattered was burning someone who didn't like them. That's not comedy, that's spite. And spite is a red line few shows recover from. At some point, Nelson became soft, Milhouse got abs, Homer became a life coach. The characters didn't grow, they bent. They were snapped. And when they snapped, they didn't bounce back. You can't always say which moment broke the show. Was it the dream that erased betrayal? The bar rag with a Napoleon flashback? The moment Lisa stopped crying and started narrating? But you feel it. You feel it when the crowd doesn't react to their town burning. When Bart bullies someone and nobody cares. When Grandpa's whole storyline disappears. When Marge's voice cracks. Not emotionally, but physically, because Julie Kavner can barely do it anymore. And the show pretends that's fine. The Simpsons didn't just stop being funny, it went too far. It used to know the difference between making smart jokes and being mean, between making fun of something and trying too hard to please people. But once it crossed that line, it never really came back. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching and supporting our channel.